Poverty, at a very basic level, could be a numerical definition of a person's economic condition. One, in this setting, could easily determine poverty by setting a level of daily living income. However, we believe that poverty exceeds the simplicity of numbers. It is so much more than just the level at which a person becomes economically poor. Poverty is a multifaceted and pervasive issue that restricts human capability and autonomy through the deprivation of resources and opportunity.
Yeah, segmenting off of what Nick said, that's where our title comes in for this project and presentation. It's poverty solution for people by people. Some people look at poverty as just an issue that focuses solely on income or just solely tangible absolute values that you can really see. But currently, the way many people see poverty in the United States defines and measures poverty is through a way that just sees people as income numbers, and that's just not how it should be. That's not how poverty should be measured, in me and Nick's opinion, and that's why we need to treat it as an issue that affects people and not just money signs. So, going off what I just said, in the United States, poverty is defined by the OPM, also known as the official poverty measure, and it defines and measures poverty in absolute values. There's a threshold at which you are either in poverty or not. There's if you're and it's measured on gross annual pre-tax income. So if you make $1 more before taxes, you're not in poverty in the eyes of the United States government. And it has many faults. And Nick's going to go into basically why it's just a terrible threshold, not only as a binary but as its measurement itself.
So currently, the OPM, its threshold is defined as three times a thrifty food basket. What does that mean? And why is it three times? A thrifty food basket was created in the 1960s, and it determined the lowest cost economic food plan that could sustain metabolic functionings for people living in quote unquote poverty. Why is it three times? Because in the 1960s, it was determined that people spent about three or one third of their income on food. That has changed over time as food has become cheaper and housing has become more expensive. That threshold is it's not straight across for everyone, but it's adjusted by the consumer price index every year to adjust for inflation, and it's adjusted by family size and composition. Now that we have talked about how the United States both defines and measures poverty, we think that we should talk about how we think poverty should be defined and measured. We think that poverty should be defined through a capabilities framework. This gives more respect to human capability, to human autonomy, rather than defining poverty as living below a certain threshold of income.
And segmenting off of that, we think that poverty should be measured using a supplementary poverty measurement instead of the official poverty measurement mentioned before that the United States does. And this might not be perfect in measuring capabilities, but we'll describe it in more detail and explain to you why we think it's the best option.
What is a capabilities framework, and how are we using that to define poverty rather than using the OPM to define poverty as a threshold of income or level of income below which you are poor? First, we have to start with functionings. Functionings are the things that we can do or be during a day. That can be as simple as eating enough food to sustain metabolic functioning or brushing your teeth. Capability is the wide range of functionings that we can be or do during our life. Important and integral to capability is can. Can is the freedom of choice to how we live our lives. We believe that the deprivation of capability or the deprivation of choice is integral to defining poverty. If you don't have enough capability or the ability to choose how you want to live your life, we believe that to be poverty. We think that this has respect for human dignity and prioritizes agency. Some of our what we believe to be central capabilities come from Martha Nussbaum. We believe that the ability to play, to enjoy your life, the ability to live a long life outside of a truncated existence, The ability to cultivate your senses or your imagination through education is a central capability. To have control or political agency is also a central capability. And lastly, we think one of the most important ones is your ability to have bodily integrity or have choice and freedom in how you live and take care of yourself.
Now that Nick has explained that we're going to be defining poverty as a deprivation of capabilities, uh, we think that the SPM, or the Supplementary Poverty Measure, would be the best way to measure this capabilities approach to poverty. And basically, the SPM it has a threshold like the OPM, but it's not based on a 1960s food basket. It's based on the cost of food, clothing, shelter, and utilities for the 33rd percentile of people living in the United States times 1.2. And the SPM is also better because, unlike the OPM, which just uses gross annual pre-tax income, the SPM accounts for expenses such as childcare and travel expenses to work, and it also accounts for benefits like SNAP and other government provided benefits. And the reason that this SPM is better is it accounts for geographic differences, how the impoverished really spend money, and though this is far from truly measuring a capabilities approach to poverty, we think it's the best way because it can be adjusted in a way that can account for that. For example, one thing we think should be added to the SPM is an expense should be hygiene products. Hygiene is different for each individual, and they're vital to social inclusion, which is a capability. That's almost the basis for capabilities, making sure you're socially included in society and able to make the choices you want to do. So that's why we think that the SPM would be the best measure because it can be adjusted in a way that truly looks at a capabilities approach to poverty.
Can the SPM truly account for capabilities? Does our measurement meet our definition of poverty? The honest answer is no. Uh, it's impossible to truly measure capabilities or if someone's having their capabilities met. But we believe, due to the complex relationship of income and capabilities, more often than not, if you're above the SPM threshold, you're more than likely to have your capabilities met. This may seem bad, but inherently we don't believe it is. Since there are other indirect ways of measuring capabilities, we believe that those can be added on so that we might get a better image of whether or not someone is having their capabilities met outside of income.
Yeah, and we think that the SPM is a great measurement, and it can be adjusted in many ways to truly account for many capabilities. But the fact of the matter is our measure is not going to be the means to which capabilities are met. We need other organizations focusing on things that are important to making sure capabilities are met, and something that could be like that is like just governments trying to improve their human development index, gender development index, empowerment measure, just working towards achieving these high marks on things that ensure or really try to promote capabilities. And though our measure might not be perfect, we can still work towards a society that views poverty as a problem that's not just in absolute values, just in capabilities. Though our measurement and definition of poverty is far from perfect, what matters is that our definition and measure respects human dignity and agency and spreads awareness of this issue at hand. In our measurement, we try to incorporate proxy values to measure capabilities while also acknowledging the complex relationship between income lowness and a lack of capabilities.